You have goals, and it's time you reached them faster. You have dreams, and it's time you make them a reality. Massive life transformation starts now. It's Tampa Bay's performance power couple, certified coach and performance specialist Dana Medlin and certified coach and behavior analyst Michael Medlin. Get ready to transform your actions. It's time for the Action Hour.
Welcome to the Action Hour. I am your host, Dana Medlin, and I'm joined by my cute and cuddly husband, Mr. Michael Medlin. How are you doing over there?
I'm always good, baby. Thank you.
So I am excited about today's show because today we're going to be talking about body image issues. And, you know, when we started preparing for this show, it dawned on us after we chose the topic, that we're actually discussing an issue that is of particular interest to our sponsors.
So true. Having a medical weight loss company, Medi-weightloss, and a board-certified cosmetic surgeon, Dr. Pedro Soler, it definitely ties into what they do on a physical level. And it also really ties into what we do on a personal, a psychological, and performance level, too. For sure.
I mean, what we do and what they do absolutely works hand in hand. I'm sure they see patients with body image issues on a daily basis, though.
Really, my concern was we look at the function of what behavior is, and oftentimes it appears as though we actually talk people out of changing themselves physically. So how do we work around that?
Yeah, but here's the thing. So there's a difference in improving yourself for health reasons, like if you're needing to lose weight or getting liposuction, or even improving yourself for vanity reasons, like getting a nose job or even Botox for wrinkles. There's a difference between those improvements and then changing yourself because of an unhealthy self-image, disliking or even hating yourself and letting that cause you to drastically alter your appearance with the notion that somehow you're going to love and accept yourself more if you change the outside appearance. So I used to work with a very, very popular national med spa, and they specialize in laser hair removal and wrinkle relaxers like Botox and fillers like Voluma.
I'm kind of happy you're here with us because that really wasn't an ideal situation.
Very funny, Medlin. But one of the things I loved most about working with that company was all the free treatments I got to take advantage of.
Free is good.
Free is my favorite price point. So believe me when I tell you, I'm all about making improvements when you feel they're necessary. Like I need to get myself over to Dr. Pedro's office so I can do something about this Shar-Pei situation I got happening on my forehead. But what we're talking about today is how to have a healthy body image, regardless of what your body looks like. It's an inner self-acceptance that we're talking about. And it's what's necessary in order to like what you see in the mirror, regardless of what that mirror reflection is. So here's the thing. There are staggering statistics pointing to the number of adolescent women that are struggling with eating disorders, poor body image, and low self-esteem. But what that means is that middle-aged women easily fall to the wayside in terms of their struggle for recovery and image wellness. So the thing is, as a middle-aged woman, I can attest to the fact that you don't just wake up middle-aged and then all of a sudden you have a body image issue. How you feel about yourself, you've been feeling that for quite some time already, and for most of us, it started in like middle school or high school, some even younger. Michael, I don't know about men, but I know as women, we're so incredibly critical of ourselves. We're critical of other women too, but mostly ourselves.
Yeah, men aren't as overt about it, because society says we're not supposed to be. But let's be honest, there's a reason why gyms have all the mirrors and why there's so many men's magazines with the big six-pack ab guys on the front. Men feel the pressure too. That's why I'm loving this whole dad bod craze because I can rock that.
I love your dad bod.
Oh, thank you. And keeping it completely real, I said on my dating profile when we met, that as long as there's 75-cent chicken wings and $1 beer night, I'm not going to have a six-pack abs. But
I love it.
That's okay. I've already landed you, and you're kind of stuck with me now. So.
I'm stuck with you, but it's exactly where I want to be, and I do love that about you. So how do we move to a point of self-acceptance, self-love, self-actualization? Because that's really what we're talking about today. So let's start by first breaking down the causes of low self-esteem, low body image, and then we'll get right into some solutions and how-tos, which are always my favorite part. So what causes a negative body image, and there are a myriad of things that could cause it or start someone down the path of thinking less of themselves or not liking what they see in the mirror. I know for me, I was a competitive dancer in high school, and our dance instructor used to say the worst things to us. He was awful. He would say things like, "Get your Battlestar Galactica thighs over here." And it's like, no, seriously, keep in mind,
That's
though,
so wrong.
it is wrong. I was a size 0 in high school, and I'm only a size 2 now, but there are times when I look in the mirror and I'm hearing his voice yelling at me, asking me where my thigh gap is.
I'd like to get my hands on that guy.
No, but listen, there are a lot of other dancers and gymnasts who I know have had similar types of coaches or trainers. And some of these young people, unfortunately, they develop a deeply ingrained and long-standing dissatisfaction with their body, no matter how thin they are. Some even develop eating disorders as a result of these voices that they hear in their ears, because they become the voices that they hear in their heads. Body image issues, eating disorders, all those things usually go hand in hand. But eating disorders are not the only indication of a body image issue, but it's definitely high up there.
Very true. I mean, some factors, although they're not necessarily predictive, that can kind of attribute to the onset of an eating disorder. We categorize them in behavioral therapy in 4 different categories. You have the interpersonal, and those are your trouble in personal relationships, your difficult expressing emotion, abuse, the history of being ridiculed for your size and weight, things like that. Then there's always the social pressure, which is prevalent everywhere. Cultural pressure, glorifying thinness, valuing, that perfect body.
Yeah.
Psychological, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety. And then most recently, what I found interesting when we were doing the research on the show was there was actually a biological component where recent research really revealed that there may be a significant genetic contribution, that's actually in play with many of the eating disorders.
And I did find that interesting, that how you feel about yourself, if you have a negative body image, now there are studies showing that this can actually be hereditary.
Well, they're not certain exactly how it's going to be linked, because the genetic research, it's really in its infancy. They compared family rates. Parents that had children, both of them had some sort of history of body weight issues. Then they looked at twins, and then they had to differentiate the twins between identical and fraternal.
Okay.
And by looking at all of that, some of the early data showed that there could be a trend for genetics, but it's really, really hard to pull out the societal element.
Yeah, no, society obviously plays a huge role in how we feel about ourselves and those voices that we hear in our heads. So how do we then distinguish if we even have a body image issue? So we've compiled just a short list of things for you to consider, right? So the first one being, if you find yourself regularly criticizing your appearance. And I know, when we look in the mirror, we can all identify things that we want to change, right? But if you're constantly criticizing yourself, then those thoughts really need to be analyzed and restructured to a more rational and kind self-talk. And we're going to get more into self-talk when we get back from the break. But another indicator, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay. Another indicator of how to distinguish a negative body image is if you frequently compare yourself in terms of size or shape to other people. Worse yet, if you are comparing yourself to those stick figures in fashion magazines.
And they don't tell you that a lot of those models are between the ages of 14 and 16. So here you are, you're in your 30s trying to compare yourself to someone that's half your size.
I really wish I were in my 30s. Right? No, but trying to live up to unrealistic ideals of beauty is futile, and we know that, right? But we need to recognize it for what it is and call it out for what it is, right? It's advertising. They're selling clothes and handbags and shoes and the like. So trying to measure up to that is going to be impossible, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and really, I mean, the most balanced approach plans, weight loss plans that we've really looked at, I mean, some of them are more extreme, some are less, but if you're losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, that's considered to be more of a slower plan. And this is why I like Medi-weightloss, because they use a doctor-supervised plan. So if you're looking for rapid weight loss programs, but the key is to be safe. It's part of a healthy journey, and that plan it has to be the priority first. It's health.
Absolutely. So we are going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to explore some more ways in how you can know if you've got a body image issue and what actions you can start taking today to improve it. Then coming up, we'll be talking with our guest, board-certified cosmetic and reconstructive surgeon, Dr. Pedro Soler. Can't wait to hear his insight on the subject. And later this hour, we've got a brand new BehaviorSelf where we give listeners the opportunity to message us their questions and we give them some live coaching. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Turn heads this summer with the help of Medi-weightloss. Lose up to 20 pounds the first month with a medically supervised weight loss program that's tailored to meet your specific needs. Their team of trained medical professionals will guide you, ensuring that you lose the weight and keep it off. Get started today. Call 877-MED-LOSS and book your free assessment. That's 877-MED-LOSS. Locations Tampa, Brandon, and Lutz. On average, patients on individualized restricted calorie program lose 6.4 pounds the first week and 14 pounds the first month. Medical supervision required.
Welcome back to the Action Hour. Today we are talking about body image, self-esteem, self-actualization. Self-acceptance is really what the conversation is about. And as we begin a journey towards self-acceptance, it's really crucial to realize and understand that rising above destructive thoughts and behaviors, it requires a fundamental change in how we think about ourselves and how we think about our environment, right? And when I say environment, I mean things like food, right?
Yeah.
Food is part of our environment. We have got to make peace with food. We've got to change the relationship and the mindset we have about food. Food is not evil, and it is not the enemy. What it is fuel. We actually do need it. But what I've realized and what I like to share is that we also need more education as it relates to food. So one of the best things I ever did was to get certified as a health and wellness coach through Sanford Health, because some of the things that I learned going through that process has been transformative even in our own household. Like I learned things like what foods provide nutrients for the body without introducing too many simple sugars or saturated fats. I learned what food combinations to make that are both tasty and healthy, because let's just be real, the reason why most people stay away from healthy food is because they think it's going to taste like tree bark or something, you know? So, but I learned things like how to experiment and have fun creating new dishes, and how, most importantly, how to be disciplined at restaurants to avoid the food types that are not going to be helpful or useful during a weight management program or living a healthy lifestyle. And that's important because I'm a foodie and I like to eat.
Oh, you do. I mean, too many times in American lifestyle, we've altered our relationship, with food by making it comfort and to cheer you up, or, a way to cure boredom. Getting together with friends now is more about food than the actual socializing,
right?
Which I kind of think is sad.
It really is. You know how my family rolls.
Oh yeah. I mean, we had 25 of them at our house the other day. And when you find balance, that's when you'll know that there are foods that you can, limit and unlimited. I mean, no doctor's going to tell you, hey, you got to cut back on the salads. I mean, you're eating way too much of that. But we also know not to eat the entire cake,
right?
But there's not an intrinsically good or bad. It's not like the salad's going to, send you to heaven and the cake's going to send you to hell.
Dude, if eating cake sends you to hell, I'd already be there. Like, bye. No, but I agree with you. It's not about good or bad. But speaking of journaling, again,
yeah, that's my thing.
You see, yep, and you're not the only one that uses that advice. But when I coach clients, I advise them to write down what they're thinking and how they're feeling right before they eat or right before they order a meal or grab something out of the fridge. And the reason being is we want to start to take a look for patterns, right? And as we're looking at these patterns, we can then start to identify triggers. For example, if someone is like hitting fast food restaurants every day on the way home from work, right? Or they're hitting a bottle of alcohol every day after work, then we might, from that information, deduce that it's probably work-related stress, right? But so then by knowing that, we can incorporate replacement behaviors that are either less detrimental, or we can incorporate a healthy coping mechanism and some stress management techniques.
Yeah, I mean, we use antecedent interventions is what we call it. Antecedent is any time that the intervention happens before the actual unwanted behavior. when we look at behavior that is unwanted and we find a cause, then we see if there's a way to either kind of reduce the effect of the cause or to eliminate it entirely. I mean, would you rather deal with an unwanted behavior after it occurs, or would you find the reason and eliminate it before it occurs?
Absolutely, before it occurs and causes a problem.
Yeah, I mean, in my life, I like to be proactive in it, and that's
absolutely,
where it comes in.
For sure. And by the way, thanks for explaining exactly what we do and how we do it. That's awesome. Antecedent intervention. I love it when you geek out.
Yeah, that's my thing.
So another thing that's important to recognize and understand is know where your feelings about your body image and your self-esteem came from, right? Write it all down. Write down the negative thoughts you have about yourself and your body, but recognize how they make you feel and start to analyze, because this is what we do with our clients. We analyze, when did those feelings start? When did those words start playing in your head? Was it childhood? Was it a parent, teacher, coach, relative, or somebody that first put those thoughts in your mind? Were you one of those people that were always told that they were pretty? So now you identify that as
Don't tell me I'm pretty that often.
You are pretty, but if you measure that as your sense of self-worth, what's going to happen when your looks start to fade, right? Yeah. Or were you told you need to lose weight? And now that's been your struggle your whole life because that sound bite is what keeps playing in a loop in your head, right? We get people to really identify and understand where these feelings come from, because once you identify the root of the feelings, you can begin to change the self-talk.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we talk about journaling a lot.
Because it's effective.
Yeah, but it was my ability to look back on, going back to my 10th grade year when my geometry teacher told, a lost and confused kid that he better get used to having his name on his shirt because he was never going to amount to anything.
Oh, that's so sad.
And after that,
terrible.
I was able to identify my constant need to know more than those around me. I mean, I have 3 degrees and enough certifications and enough college debt to kill someone.
Okay, don't I know it?
Yes, you do. And for some reason, I didn't feel like I knew enough. And after realizing what he had done to me, I was able to change my thoughts, walk in my truth, and I'm a highly educated man. I'm doing quite well for myself. There's so much power in reflection.
I couldn't agree more with that. It's so true. Like, I find myself telling parents and teachers and other people who have influence and power over young people and children to be so incredibly careful of the words they use, because those words become an adult's self-talk. I mean, that's power, right? So I urge parents, teachers, anyone who has influence over young people to use that power for good. So moving on. Next, we want to look at breaking the unhealthy mental and verbal behaviors, right? So we've mentioned a lot about self-talk. Well, first and foremost, it starts within. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you have to stop judging other people based on their appearance.
Project much.
Exactly. Because all it does is reinforce your own negative feelings of yourself or any other feelings of inadequacies that you might have.
So true.
Right. So here's how you do that. As soon as those thoughts about other people pop in your head, eliminate them. Just stop and focus on some other aspect of that individual, like, what they're actually saying or how they're acting, but avoid any comments about someone else's physical appearance altogether. Now, in our practice, we use challenges, right? Because we believe that if you compete against yourself, you're never going to lose. You're always going to win, right? So we challenge our clients. And one of the challenges is just this. It's not judging others based on their appearance. So challenge yourself to do this for an entire day, right? Every time a negative thought or opinion pops in your head about another individual, stop yourself and think of something else. Do that for an entire day. Then once you've conquered the day, try it for an entire week. Then once you've conquered the week, try it for an entire month. This is how we start to form a healthy mental habit. And you're going to begin to notice in a very short time that this is going to lead to a healthy mindset about your own body image.
And I love the term that you used, verbal behavior. People don't think about words being a behavior, but speaking, even if it's in an internal process, is a behavior.
Absolutely.
If you were, say like you were hitting yourself, which is an obvious, physical behavior, you would work to stop it. Well, I mean, be mindful of your self-talk. You can literally rewire your brain. Information, thoughts, they move through your brain via neural pathways, and the more thoughts that you allow about a specific,
subject,
yeah, the stronger that pathway becomes. So if you're constantly thinking, I'm fat, I'm ugly, you're reinforcing those incredibly, strong feelings about yourself, then what you have to do is you have to start to begin to create new replacement thought processes with messages of self-love, kindness instead of self-rejection. And one way, to interrupt your negative thinking is to say, either that's not true or by saying a phrase that you wish to be true.
Oh my goodness. So do you remember that movie, The Help?
Yeah.
Okay, so the nanny tells the little girl, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. So start saying things like that to yourself. Funny. I promise you that if you start telling yourself that kind of stuff every day, it will 100% change what you see in the mirror.
And it's okay to acknowledge areas that you wish to improve upon. It's okay to want to be fit, to fit into a dress, for a special occasion. It's to be able to physically perform in a certain way. Mm-hmm. What we're saying is what we want to make clear is change for self-improvement is great.
Absolutely.
But change due to self-loathing is very dangerous, and you deserve better.
And I'm so glad that you said that. You deserve better, because what this is all about is you doing this to have a healthier opinion of yourself. And what that's going to take is commitment, right? You have to commit to improve. And it sounds simple to commit to improve. But the reality is, if it was just that simple, Michael, you and I, we would be out of work.
Yeah, the coaching and self-help industry is a $4 billion industry now.
Absolutely. And it's because accountability is probably the number one thing the number one most important thing that we do as coaches. And we've yet, I don't think you have, but I've yet to meet anyone that couldn't use some help in the accountability department.
Absolutely.
But here's why it's so crucial. Making progress in areas that you know that are important to you is one of the best ways to boost your self-esteem, because you're doing it for you. And when we boost our self-esteem, our body image always follows. I promise you, if you commit to making healthy changes for the right reason and actually follow through, even if you need a little help to do it, it's going to change what you see in the mirror.
We tell clients every day, perfection is unrealistic. Mm-hmm. But you can always be a little better than before. And life is not about perfection. It's about progress.
Absolutely. Life is about progress, not perfection. I love it. Now, these are just some simple things that you can do on your own, but that's really just scratching the surface. Most times when someone comes to us for personal development coaching, particularly to improve their self-esteem or self-worth, this process and these exercises, they take months. So it's important to remember that these behaviors, some of them have been ingrained in us for years. They've taken years to establish. So making changes isn't going to be easy. And those changes, they're not going to be solidified overnight.
And they're going to come back. We have something called spontaneous recovery that happens all the time, where a behavior that you've gotten rid of all of a sudden pops back up. That's humanity.
That's humanity. But that's also why it's particularly important, parents, to be mindful of what we say to our children, because as their brains are still forming, negative criticisms, again, become their self-talk. And Michael, I'm sure that you dealt with parents who needed to be coached on how to productively discipline their kids because they were on the autism spectrum.
I'm not a huge fan of discipline in general. I'm much more of a reinforcement kind of guy. But the overwhelming number one thing that I had to tell parents all the time, and I know it sounds simple, but stop talking in front of your children as if they're not there. Comments made between parents cause more damage because they think the child doesn't understand or isn't listening.
Oh my goodness. This is such good stuff. I could talk about this all day, but I hear the music. So if you or someone you know needs a little help boosting your self-esteem or improving your self-talk, please reach out to us, because we really are here to help. Coming up, we've got Dr. Pedro Soler when we come back, so stay tuned. Looking to tone, tighten, or enhance your body while still retaining a natural appearance? Then look no further than Dr. Pedro Soler. Dr. Soler uses a customized approach to cosmetic and reconstructive procedures to the face, body, and breast. Call or go online now to receive 10% off any cosmetic procedure. 813-878-9889. That's 813-878-9889. Reclaim your confidence and discover a new you. Welcome back to the Action Hour with Dana and Michael. We don't usually have our sponsors come on the show for an interview, but when we sat down in Dr. Soler's office and we got a feel for him and his staff and the overall culture of his cosmetic surgery practice, we knew that this was something special. I mean, as we're sitting there speaking with him about being a sponsor for the show, we got to know Pedro, not just Dr. Soler. He invited us into his story, his life, his family's journey from Cuba.
And we really noticed, I mean, his staff was really at ease, and his office manager was hilarious. They kind of like fought with each other like brothers and sisters. It was great.
And before we knew it, it had been an hour and a half that had gone by, and all we had discussed was us, no business. I mean, it was truly incredible. So he is brilliant. He's funny. He's fun to look at. And he's someone that we like to call our friend. Please welcome Dr. Pedro Soler.
Well, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate this.
You are very welcome, sir. How you doing today?
I am well. How about you guys?
We're having a blast in here.
Always fun.
Yeah, and we're actually talking about a topic that is right up your alley, which is dealing with people with body image issues and perhaps self-esteem issues. But Dr. Soler, being a cosmetic surgeon, it wasn't always like your original plan. So can you share with us your story and how you decided that cosmetic and reconstructive surgery was going to be your path?
Well, you know, I got to be honest with you. When I first went into plastic surgery, really, I was focused on reconstructive. It's wonderful. I got to be honest with you. It's a great feeling because you not only rebuild the person's body, but their life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, kids that are born with cleft lips and palates, people who get into car accidents and need facial reconstruction. And of course, one that we all hear about a lot nowadays and probably know someone in our life, breast reconstruction after breast cancer surgery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So all those things really, I mean, that's what really attracted me to plastic surgery. But usually when people think of plastic surgery, what do they think about, right? Breast augmentation,
Right.
liposuction. And that's really the main component when you say, I'm a plastic surgeon. Oh, so you do breast augmentation. Yeah, that's part of what I do, right? I mean, and many people will equate that with vanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, you always hear people say, "Oh, I'd rather age naturally or gracefully," but what's wrong with improving yourself?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we work all. Why do you go and get a higher education? You want to improve what's on the inside. You want to improve yourself. So why not work on what's on the outside as well?
Oh, I'm a big proponent of cosmetic surgery. I mean, like you said, a lot of people do it for vanity, but I don't see anything wrong with that. So,
although, I mean, a lot of my patients actually come to me and they say it's not so much about combating aging, but rather I want my outside to look like my inside.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree with you more. We were actually talking about that, earlier today because, after I got my master's degree, I had ballooned up to over, I think I was 288 pounds at that point. And at that point, I didn't feel like my mind and my body, really matched. And so I sought out some help, to get me there. But one of the questions I had for you, and it's just my own, personal interest, is we were watching some of the, different plastic surgery shows and the extreme surgeries and modifications. And I actually saw a lady who had 4 ribs removed. I mean, where do you draw your ethical line? I mean, how do you formulate what you will do, what you won't do?
And have you ever had to turn anyone down?
Well, yes, I will turn people down. Basically, you sort of have a moral guideline. You know what they are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what's tried and true. You know what the literature tells you. And yes, our literature does change with time, but you don't know what you don't know, right? And so you have to go with what you have in front of you. And so if we know that, liposuction is not a form of weight loss. So if you have somebody coming to you that truly needs significant weight loss of 100 pounds or more, you're not going to look at them and tell them, I'm going to help you. I'm going to take all this fat off of you. You're going to lose all this weight.
Right.
It's going to be great. You're going to look fantastic. You're lying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're doing a disservice to that patient.
And I appreciate that you're saying that because unfortunately, there are plastic surgeons or cosmetic surgeons that wouldn't turn them away. And that would do that surgery and that would tell them that this is going to, change their lives or whatever. And they're just going to lie in that person's face. I mean, one of the things I love about your practice and what you do and the way you do it is the relationship that you build with your patients. I mean, they become like family with you and you're seriously there to look after them and take care of them and ultimately do what's best for them.
Well, I mean, if think about it, right? I mean, It's to me, it's a very humbling thing, right? You, these people are coming to see you. Yes, okay, you're certified, you have all the credentials, and that's fantastic, but you're still a stranger.
Yeah.
And so you're asking a total stranger to put you to sleep and to cut on you.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't humble you, if that doesn't make you feel kind of, wow, I mean, they trust me with their very lives, right? You're just not paying attention, right?
Most definitely. I know one of the reasons I have not sought plastic surgery, rhinoplasty, because I've always wanted a nose job and I wanted to make sure I was doing it for the right reasons. But one of the reasons I haven't done it is because I'm a control freak and I'm terrified of being completely under and having my life in someone else's hands. So I am that person you're talking about.
Well, that's really, even the people that are willing to give up that control and don't have that tight grip on the control. I mean, think about it. No matter whether it's cosmetic or reconstructive, really, the whole interaction is about patients having some hope and basically taking their life back and taking also responsibility for their life.
Most
right?
definitely.
I love that. I mean, we do what we do because of the way it makes us feel. I mean, we love helping change lives. Thinking back on past patients, I mean, are there any procedures that stand out that, just warm your heart, that really reminds you why you got into this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can go on and on for hours, but from the reconstructive side, I mean, I can call up on patients that you close wounds on their extremities, be it the arms or the legs after a big bad accident, and if you weren't able to do that, they would be losing an arm or a leg.
Yeah.
Kids that you repair their cleft lip or cleft palate, and you know that you're changing their lives. You know that they're going to grow up normal. They're not going to grow up with that stigmata of, oh, look at that guy over there. Or
they're not going to fall prey to the social pressures that we were talking about earlier that becomes that negative self-talk.
Right. And, but even taking care of those kids, it's quite amazing because you'll see some of those that have more severe facial deformities. And so you can help them, but you're never going to really make them look completely normal. But they give you a very important lesson. Some of these kids, you look at them from afar and you're kind of going, wow, that I feel so bad for this kid. Once you meet them, their personality, all the physical deformities, they melt away.
Yeah.
And you realize this kid has a better social life than I do.
Yeah.
And it's not about the way you look, right? It's about what's inside of you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what's inside of you, Dr. Pedro Soler. So let's talk a bit about your success quote. And you have a really great one. And so I was hoping that you would share that with our listeners.
Sure. It's from Winston Churchill. And he says, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
I love that.
I do.
Absolutely. Because no matter how successful you are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to keep pushing. There's always people behind you. And you're only as good as your last job. Right?
That's the truth.
And really, and that part about failure not being fatal, I that's probably my favorite part, right? Because I think it was an interview that they did with Edison after he invented the light bulb. And, the guy asked him, says, how did it feel to fail over 2,000 times before you finally found the answer? And he looked at him and he says, no, I didn't fail over 2,000 times. I just found over 2,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
There you go. It's all about perspective.
Right.
So, Dr. Soler, where can our listeners find you and contact you for a consultation if they find themselves in need or wanting cosmetic surgery?
Well, obviously, the internet is probably the fastest and easiest way. And it's under my name, PedroMSolerMD.com. Or they can always contact the office at 813-878-9889.
9889. Dr. Soler, Pedro, our dear friend, thank you so much for being here today. For more information, you can check out Actions Transform or the Action Hour on Facebook. We've got Dr. Pedro Soler's ads and information posted everywhere because, again, he is family. He is a friend.
And what is he giving our listeners right now?
It's 10%. What is it?
10% off of any cosmetic procedure.
Excellent. 10% off any cosmetic procedure. So when we come back, we've got a brand new BehaviorSelf. So stick around and we'll be right back. I think we can all admit that adulting can be hard, but don't let stress and personal difficulties keep you from living your best life. At Actions Transform, our behavior coaches can teach you to break unhealthy habits and give you the tools you need to achieve your personal and professional goals. You have everything to gain. Call Actions Transform today at 813-444-2282 or visit us at actionstransform.com. Remember, dreams inspire, but actions transform. Welcome back to the Action Hour, and it is time for our very favorite segment. It is BehaviorSelf, and it's where we give our listeners the opportunity to message us via Facebook or email, send us questions, and we give life coaching right here, right now. So this week's letter from a listener reads as this. Dear Michael and Dana, I'm really enjoying how fresh and energetic your show is. I read on your Facebook page that you do business coaching too. Let's see if you can help me. I own a small business, about 10 employees. It'd be great if everyone showed up to work ready to be part of a team and really contribute. But right now, I feel like everyone is just showing up for a paycheck. Not the best vibes happening in the office right now. I've tried different incentives to get everybody motivated, like buying lunch or even closing early on Fridays, but that only works in the moment. I've been in business long enough to know that the success of my business depends on having a solid team in place. But I've got a business to run. I can't spend all my time on team building exercises. So how do I make a dream team happen? Sincerely, Joe. Well, Joe, we are so glad that you asked this question because performance coaching happens to be one of our most popular specialties. So you read correctly. Michael, it sounds like Joe could use some tips on reinforcement to motivate his team. So what are we going to do?
Hey, Joe. It does sound like you have a couple issues going on there. There are office culture issues and kind of possibly a lack of proper motivation. Now, I commonly hear people talk about how they are reinforcing their staff, but let's talk about what true reinforcement really means.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Behaviorally speaking, reinforcement isn't just an action that we do. It's actually an outcome. Okay, so I don't try to get overly clinical, but I have behavior analysts that hammer on me because I don't use all sorts of proper terminology. And frankly, because it's boring. But the clinical definition of reinforcement is a consequence that's been applied to strengthen an organism's future behavior whenever the behavior is preceded by a specific antecedent stimulus. Mouthful.
Yep, and boring.
Good stuff.
Yep, that's what we do. Yeah.
So to make it easier, if you've brought in food, you've used praise, team building, icebreakers, or you've done other activities, and the intended outcome or the desired behavior change that you're looking for, it doesn't increase in frequency, then reinforcement didn't happen.
Exactly.
It's all about the outcome. For example, if I give you $1 because I want you to come to work on time every day for a week and your rate of being on time doesn't improve, then you didn't reinforce me. You may have rewarded me, but since my behavior didn't change, true reinforcement didn't actually happen.
Good luck getting anybody to do anything for $1.
I don't get out of bed for... Now, the why is, because maybe it wasn't enough money. Maybe the time you're asking me to be there is hard because of my personal life. And as employers, we're kind of trained not to get into people's personal life, because of lawsuits and such. But the answer could be something as simple as adjusting their clock in time, if possible. Now you would have reduced their stress and it costs you absolutely nothing to get the outcome that you want.
Right.
What we do at Actions Transform, our companies, we come in and we evaluate how each person as an individual is motivated and what type of reinforcement will work because people aren't one size fits all.
Right.
I had a client who had Donut Friday and he didn't realize that some employees were on a diet. Some were doing low carb. Others simply didn't like donuts. And the ones on a diet actually ended up resenting their job for doing this because it was undermining their health and wellness goals.
Yeah.
Since they felt that they needed to eat to be a part of this festive event.
Social pressure.
He was actually lowering morale. Some clients have Employee of the Month. Recently, they were praising one who she was the best person at the meeting and giving her all kinds of great praise, not realizing that she was very shy about public praise. And so the employee's performance they actually found decreased. Because she was actually trying to avoid getting the award.
Yeah.
I mean, so sometimes our efforts really backfire. Hiring someone like us to come in and create a blueprint for you on how each person can be motivated really is a good investment. And I know that I sound like an infomercial, which is, but it is what we do.
Exactly.
I looked into the cost of replacing employees and slower work rates, because of job dissatisfaction, tardiness, calling in sick.
Even when they're not.
We call them mental health days.
Right.
They all cost employers billions each year, and it can be easily managed simply by getting to know your employees as a person. We're individual. One size, all approaches rarely ever work, and usually they're a waste of time and of your money.
Yep.
All right. So if I had a tip, it would be lay out to your employees what it is that you want to accomplish and allow them to anonymously give feedback on things they would like to see.
Yeah.
We just finished with one boss whose office, he's totally cranky now. And all we did was identify a variety of reinforcers that the employees, let us know, and let the individual employees choose which ones they wanted to work for. I mean, how easy is it to look at your employees and say, what do you want to work for?
Absolutely.
The top one in that office was allowing everyone to go home on Friday. And so as, their job duties, as soon as they were done, so half the staff now doesn't even come in on Friday anymore. And the ones who do are only there a half day.
Nice.
When the boss took the focus off of making them work 40 hours, which is just kind of a stupid arbitrary number anyhow, instead he put the focus on getting the job done.
Right.
And amazingly enough, their productivity skyrocketed.
There you go.
So if you want to change your culture or motivate your staff, give us a call. I can make the cliff notes for you since most small business CEOs don't really have the time to get to know each one of their employees.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right now we are offering a complimentary performance appraisal where we'll come into your business, we'll meet with key members of your staff, we'll provide our feedback and recommendations, and then we can come back and return weekly, bi-weekly, monthly to do on-site performance coaching. Or if not, at least then you have our feedback and recommendations so that you can then implement the changes that are going to be necessary to have the type of company culture and get out of your employees what you want. So, I hope, Joe, that you got a little bit of something out of that, and if it gave you a few ideas. I know that you emailed me. I emailed you back. So let's talk.
Yeah, no, I could talk about performance coaching in particular. In addition to everything else we've talked about today, I could talk about it all day because it is such an important aspect of any business. Culture is huge, and most employers aren't well versed enough in order to create the type of culture that they need or that they want.
And when you get to know your employee on a personal level, you can begin to tie in their life, their business. We help you look at them as a holistic entity.
Absolutely. So this has been a great show today, Medlin.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this immensely. For more information on behavior and performance coaching, you can visit us online at actionstransform.com. And to continue today's conversation, be sure to like us on Facebook at The Action Hour and at Actions Transform. If you've missed any part of today's show or even a previous show, you can find all of them on our YouTube channel, which is Actions Transform. Special thanks to our sponsors, Medi-weightloss. Visit Medi-weightloss.com to learn more about their medically supervised weight loss program. And the wonderful Dr. Pedro Soler, board-certified cosmetic and reconstructive surgeon. Thank you so much for being here today,
awesome.
Dr. Soler. Don't forget to show some love to our nonprofit partner of the month, the Angel Foundation. Visit angelfoundation.org to learn what you can do to make a difference today. Join us next week as we tackle the elusive work-life balance. Surely we could all use more of that in our lives.
I don't know anyone who couldn't.
Exactly. So if you'd like to submit coaching questions for us to read on the air during our BehaviorSelf segment, send us a message on Facebook at The Action Hour or at Actions Transform. You can also email us at info@actionstransform.com. All right, I'm talked out. That's going to do it. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Dana Medlin.
And I'm Michael Medlin, reminding you that dreams inspire, but actions transform. What do Oprah Winfrey, Hugh Jackman, Michael Jordan, even Metallica all have in common? They all had a coach. Performance and personal development coaching isn't just for celebrities. With Actions Transform, you can stop sitting on the sidelines, stop procrastinating, and stop making excuses for not hitting your goals. If you're finally ready